Have you ever started a running plan and quit after a few weeks? Well, I'm here to tell you it's probably not your fault. Hello, I'm Coach Gerald, founder of Run Rev Coaching, and this is Ep.2 of Stronger Than the Struggle. Last week, we took a look at how I came to be a runner and my backstory. If you haven't listened to that yet, I encourage you to go back, take a look, and listen to that. But this week, we're going to move on and we're going to discuss how most running plans really don't work for those who are struggling with mental health issues or grief, anxiety, depression, or just having a hard issue in life. The reality is those plans were never made for you. And you may think your problem is discipline, but the problem isn't discipline. As I said, the problem is the plans were never built for you. They were built for someone who was in a perfect situation. And the reality is, if you're like me, a lot of times your life isn't perfect. So what is it that most plans and why they don't fit with people like us? Well, the reason is, for one, they're typically designed and built around pace. You have to hit a certain pace to be where they are, or you have to hit a certain mileage, or it's more about performance. In reality, those of us who are struggling with difficult times in our lives, sometimes we're just struggling to get out the door. There are days when we just don't feel like running. And the problem with these types of plan is they assume, for one, that you wake up rested. We don't always. They assume that you're emotionally stable, and we aren't always. And they assume that you're unburdened, and that's not true. The reality is, whether you're a single mom, single dad, or whatever you're going through, the reality is real people bring grief, depression, stress, and inconsistency to the starting line. As I said, most plans are built for perfect conditions, not real people. And you're real. You've got issues. You've got struggles. And you may think that because you're struggling with some of these issues, that you're not a real runner, that you don't belong at the race start, that you don't belong here as a runner. And the reality is you do. Your life, your issues are important, and they matter. And who you are matters. What you are matters. You are important. And you deserve and need a running plan, a running coach who understands that. You need someone that understands that there's going to be days when you're just not emotionally there. And you need someone that understands that that's not an excuse, that's not a cop-out, that's the reality. And that's where I come into play. For my own story, I didn't find running in a moment of triumph. I found running during one of the hardest seasons of my life. As we discussed last week, I first found running when I lost my mom to breast cancer. And that was in 2012. And there were some things along the way that taught me who I wanted to be, both as a runner and as a coach. And they revealed some things the traditional plans just couldn't hold up to. The emotional weight of real people and what that comes out to. A lot of times you get plans and they'll do things like, on Tuesday, and I actually had this in a plan that I had, go run 9 miles. Well, that's great if you're running at a 5-minute mile or a 6-minute mile. But if you're someone who's a slow runner, the back of the pack, and yes, these are runners running 12, 14, or even 15-minute miles. And I know you've probably heard some people say that if you're running a 15-minute mile or a 16-minute mile, you're not a runner. That is nonsense. You are a runner. You matter. But if you're one of those people who's running 15-minute miles, those 9-mile plans, you're going to be out there for well over 2 hours. That's not a quick run in the middle of the week. That's a weekend long run. That's a lot of time. And the reality is you need someone that understands that. Or you're just going to have days when you plan on running 30 minutes, but life gets in the way, both stresses of your job, stresses of your family, or just stresses in general. And all you've got time for is to run those 15 minutes. You deserve a situation that understands that that matters, that that's important, that how you deal with that is more important than just perfect perfection of the plan. You need someone that understands that plans need to revolve around you, not you revolve around the plan. And that's why I coach differently. Not because I found a better plan, but because I became a different kind of coach. I understand that life will get in the way. I understand there's going to be days that you're going to struggle with what's going on. And that's why I, for one, coach things like time-based, because there's going to be days when you're tired physically, emotionally, and you're just not going to feel that you've got the umps in you. But if you can go out for a 30-minute run, it's 30 minutes. It doesn't matter really if you walk that 30 minutes, you walk that 30 minutes, you run that 30 minutes at a 15-minute mile, or you run that 30 minutes at a 5-minute mile, it's still 30 minutes. And you can adjust your plan based around how you're feeling that day. And that doesn't mean you're a failure, because if you're looking at time-based or a distance-based or a mileage-based goal or a pace-based goal, well, if you go out and the plan says that you need to run 5 miles today, but you only have time to run 3, you feel like you failed. Or if your body just isn't up to running 3, then that feels almost like a failure. The reality is, if it's 30 minutes, you go out, you do your 30 minutes, you completed it. Whether you run that 30 minutes at a fast speed or you run that 30 minutes at a slow speed, you're still running that 30 minutes. And so that's why I came up with my system. But it's not just a simple system. So my system is built around 5 pillars. They're the 5 interconnected pillars that I believe are necessary for a whole athlete approach to make your support there and to make that you work the best way they can and they work together. So we're going to take a look here now at the 5 pillars, what they are, why they matter, and how they connect to each other. Starting off, we're going to look at faith. Faith allows us to run with a purpose beyond performance. When the miles get hard, we need something bigger than a finish time to pull us forward. And faith anchors that whole system. It allows us to see that there's something outside of us that's bigger and greater than all this. Faith allows us on those bad days or the days when we just don't feel like we matter, so to speak, which, by the way, you do. That's a lie. But faith allows us to see there's something outside of just performance. There's something else that we can trust upon. And it gives us a purpose beyond ourselves, a purpose beyond performance. And faith ties in to allowing us to be a better runner. Faith in the fact that by running and by spending some time outside, we become a better person. A faith in the fact that we've been given a body and that running takes care of that body. And just faith in general helps us to understand what running the race of life is about. Next is the prospect of mental health. If you're suffering with some mental health issues, you hear about mental health, but mental health is training that adapts to how you're actually doing. It's what makes my system different. We're looking at your emotional capacity. It's as data. It's not an excuse. The reality is saying that I just wasn't emotionally feeling like running today isn't just an excuse for you. It's a reason that you are what you are. It's what's going on with you right now. It's what you're struggling with. And by looking at your mental health, we can design a plan that's based around where you are, how you're doing, and we can adapt and we can adjust and we can help you grow, because every person is different. Some people may be able to move forward faster than others based on what they're struggling with, based on where they're at. You're going to have good weeks, good days. You're going to have bad weeks, bad days. But by incorporating that into your training plan, it allows us to adapt your plan to who you are. These plans become your plan. They become revolved around who you are and what you're going through and where you're at, not you trying to fit into the plan. The third component that I absolutely support and agree with is the absolute community. As a matter of fact, community has become my word of the year for 2026. It's something that I'm very strong about because I believe with all my heart that we were never meant to do this alone. The reality is, when we isolate ourselves, it kills consistency. It allows us to say, I'll do it tomorrow. But having a community around us gives people to support us. It's not about creating shame. It's not about creating, well, I have to do this, but it's about accountability. And that accountability can be revolved around who you are or revolved around what you need. It's not about beating you over the head of you have to do this or you should do this, but it's about sharing with someone else that, hey, I'd like to go out and run 50 minutes today. It allows you to have someone to check in on you and go, oh, did you do that 15 minutes? And so that's why I put community to my plan. And that's why I'm so strong about it. As a matter of fact, I even have group runs twice a month to help build that community, to allow anyone of all aspects to come out to walk together, to run together, to allow the the runners to be there for each other, to spend some time in that community. And the fourth aspect of my plan and my prospects is mindset. Because the reality is, a lot of us, we think what our issue is in our minds. And if we're having mental health, we know we have sometimes issues with our mindset. But we're building resilience, not just endurance of the body, but endurance of the mind. And the reality is, most of the time, your mind will quit on you long before your body does. Part of that was your body was designed to protect itself. And the mind goes, well, if you keep pushing on this, you're going to get hurt. It's not necessarily true, but it's what the mind tells us to protect ourselves. And so this pillar trains us to the decision to keep on going. It trains us with mindset of what success looks like. It reframes failure and success. It reframes what we're doing as far as how we're treating ourselves and how we're preparing our minds. It trains us to understand the difference between pain and the difference between uncomfortable. It helps us understand when we should push and when we shouldn't push. And it helps us realize that we can do this. We've done this before and we can do it again. And the final and fifth pillar is race readiness. Yes, we still train, but sustainably. Yes, we're going to get to that starting line, but that's not the only goal that you're going to be facing, because performance is still a goal, but it's not the only goal. There's other goals out there that you can focus on. And race readiness is things like making sure that if you're in a long distance race, that you're properly hydrating, you're properly fueling yourself. It's learning how to make sure that you've got the skills necessary as with the mindset to be race ready. Race readiness is both a physical aspect and a mental aspect, and to some degree, even a spiritual aspect. It's allowing us to do things like dedicate our races back to God and allowing God to grow us and help us. And as you can figure out, these are all interconnected. It's why if you have ever seen my framework picture on Instagram, you'll see it's a star and it's an interconnected star. Because the reality is, if you take one of these things out of the principles and the system weakens, they have to all be worked on together. And the athlete that shows up on race day looks nothing like the one who started. And that's the reality. We train today for where you're at today, and that will get you to where you need to be on race day. But the reality is, if you want to do race preparedness, you have to have the proper mindset, and you have to have the proper faith-based aspects and the mental health. If you're working on your mental health, but you're not having the faith component supporting it, it's going to be weaker. You may get there, but you're not going to get there in the time frame, in the amount of time that you need to do. So I firmly believe these 5 principles are there to support a whole health athlete. And the reality is, you can't take one away, but your training and your success are going to be weakened. You need all 5 to support you as a full athlete. So who exactly is this planning for? Well, this is for you if you started and stopped more times than you can count. You're carrying something emotionally that no planning train has ever made room for. And you want structure, but not pressure. And that looks like a plan that comes to you and gives you some ideas of what you want to do. But it can be things simply as like, okay, run 15 to 30 minutes. Not an exact amount, but it allows you some flexibility to feel what you need to do. If you're feeling really good that day, you can do the full 30. If you're not quite feeling the greatest that day, you can do 15. But by having things like that, where 15 to 20 or 20 to 30 minutes or whatever it needs to be, it gives you the flexibility, one, to be successful because you're following the plan, but the plan allows you to adapt with what you're going on in your life. And you want a coach who sees the real person, the whole person, not just the runner. You want to see a coach who understands that life is more than just running, that your life composed of your family, your faith, your mental health journey, that you're more than just a runner, you're a whole person. And that whole person supports who you are, supports you as a runner, and it has to be supported. So you want a coach that's not just focusing in on you as a runner, but focusing in on you as a whole person. And the reality is, you're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just carrying more than what most fitness plans were built for. And that's what I'm here for. I'm a coach that's been there. I started off learning the standard ways with some plans online, but I quickly realized that they just weren't always going to fit. They were a lot of times more stringent than they needed to be, and they didn't really adapt to me. Luckily, I learned to adapt to my life to the plans. I real quickly, about 2018, found time-based running, and I've never looked back. I'm a firm advocate in time-based running. I'm a firm advocate in the 80-20 principle, which is 80% of your runs are done at an easy or conversational pace, and 20% of your runs by time through the week are going to be moderate to high intensity. One of the things I find that's so prevalent about is because when you do 80% of your time at an easy pace, it allows your body to recover. It allows you to have the energy and the strength to be able to go out on that 20% and really give it your all so your body can best benefit from that 20%. A lot of times, newer runners especially, they kind of get in this aspect where they're not quite running easy, but they're not quite running hard. So their body is getting exhausted and not recovering, but it's not running hard enough and intense enough to really give any benefits of the speed work. So instead, they're kind of getting a meh workout. It's targeting their body as far as making it weaker because it's taking the strength out because they're basically running too hard and they don't really recover. But at the same time, they're not really getting any real benefits from it because they're running too hard to recover and they're running too easy to get benefits. So the 80-20 principle is something I'm very adamant about because it absolutely gives you the ability to do what you need to do. I also believe 100% firmly in things such as run, walk. There is no shame in walking. If you have to run some, walk some, so be it. You're still out there. You're still active. For that matter, if you just need to walk for a period of time, it's okay. Where you are is where you are, and what you want to do is what you want to do. And these are other things that I really believe in wholeheartedly. The 80-20 principle, the ability that you need to probably, especially if you're a beginning runner, you need to run a lot slower than you think you do. When we start off, we think we have to run this certain speed. We think we have to run faster. But the reality is your easy pace is probably a lot slower than you think it is. It's going to be at a pace where you can carry on a conversation. While you may be a little winded, you're going to carry a conversation with the person next to you, running next to you. And for a lot of people, they think that doesn't actually matter, that they're not running fast enough. So if you've been trying to figure this out on your own, you don't have to. You can do things like if you're in the Dayton area, here in the Miami Valley, come out and attend one of our group runs. If you go to my website, runrevcoaching.com, you can actually sign up to hear all about the next group runs. You'll get all the information via your email, and you're always welcome. I appreciate RSVPs, but they're not required. They're designed to be a community event where you can come in and have some support and come together. And if you're looking for just something simple like a one-time event, I offer strategy calls. There's situations where you schedule with me for a one-time fee. We'll sit down. You get me for 30 minutes to an hour. We'll go over what's going right, what's going wrong. We'll go over a plan to go move forward. And it's basically a time for you to sit down with me as a coach to pick my brain, to see what I could offer you, or to see a new perspective to maybe help you get over that hump or that hurdle that you're dealing with. It's an opportunity for you to basically bend the ear of a coach. And then nothing else right now. If all that's too much for you right now, keep following along with this journey on the podcast. Keep listening. Keep tuning in. We're going to discuss more and more. We're going to look at things, how that affects you. So the idea here is that I want to make this a safe place for you. I want you to feel comfortable tuning into the podcast and listening in, signing up for the email address, or just getting my emails, attending your group run, your strategy call. So next episode, we're going to be breaking down how running actually helps your mental health and how to start even when you're struggling. You're not going to want to miss that. Until then, this is Coach Gerald telling you, you matter, and keep running.